Hello and welcome to another SAS Global Forum 2020 virtual session. Today we're going to talk about bringing more power to our report viewers with SAS Vision Analytics on SAS Viya. I'm Atrin Assa, and I'm going to be sharing the cool new things that your report consumers can achieve with our new viewer customizations capability. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you've ever had to build a report or dashboard for your organization, you've probably run into a situation like this in the past. You spend lots and lots of time and you work with lots of different people and you build this beautiful report, you build this beautiful dashboard, you bring together all kinds of data and information, you perfectly craft each individual chart, you make sure it looks gorgeous, you make sure that it's useful, you make sure that it's usable. You go to sas.com/beautiful reports and you learn all the principles about making a great report. And then you publish the report. And you get some initial feedback about this report and then it starts happening, right? The people start, calling you up or emailing you or chatting you on Skype or Teams or Slack, and they start to say things like, hey, so on page 3 over here, you used a bar chart to display some of this information. And, I don't think the bar chart is the right way to do this. Our team could really use, instead of this bar chart, something like a pie chart. So can you go ahead and make that change of making that bar chart a pie chart for us? And you kind of think about it for a second and you deliberately decided on a bar chart, but you figure, all right, well, maybe I can make that change to a pie chart for them. And then about 30 seconds later, you get a call from another team who's looking at page 5 of this report here. And on that page, you've got a geomap with a bubble plot on it. And that team, they approach you and they basically say, well, you've got this geomap over here. That looks pretty good, but I really don't like it. Instead of being able to see a geomap, I just want to have a simple view of this. So can you make that geomap into a bar chart? And this kind of repeats itself. So people will come back to you and ask you questions, for example, about, can you put some labels on this chart? Can you have this table over here display the sum of values for you? And so this creation of yours that you spend so much time on to get right ends up not serving the needs of all the different kinds of people with valid concerns and valid needs that need to be handled. So how do you approach this problem, right? So how do you handle this problem? Well, historically, what you would end up doing 9 times out of 10 is that you would hear out everyone's concerns and tweaks and changes that they would want to make to this report of yours or to this dashboard that you've built. And then you'd basically go through and create half a dozen different versions of this report that have basically 90% the same content, but then tweaks for each individual team so that each individual team can get the perspective that they need from that report or dashboard. And this, of course, becomes cumbersome. It's difficult to maintain. And of course, when you're set with each of your half a dozen different versions of the report, there's going to be more feedback and comments and more requests that you're going to have to continually make adjustments for. So your phone will never stop ringing and your inbox will always be filled with these kinds of requests. So the source of this problem is that typically in a traditional way of building a report or dashboard is that you are predefining paths for your users to go through as they interact with this report. And that means that every path that your user wants to traverse, you're going to have to think of ahead of time, figure out ahead of time, design and build and test and make sure that it is working ahead of time. And this can slow you down. This can mean that you have to build a very, very complicated report in order to have it meet the needs of various users. Or you're going to have to basically build a bunch of different kinds of reports to better meet the different needs of different users, and that can become a maintenance problem. So what we've done with SAS Vision Analytics is basically say, why can't you have your defined paths, but also get a little bit of freedom to explore and make that available to your end users? So if you have the defined paths, you build the report that you want your users to have, but then you give them the flexibility of deciding for themselves where they want to go, what they want to do with that report. All of a sudden, you can build a fairly simple report, and then your end users can customize that report for themselves and get the insights that they want out of it for themselves. And that's what viewer customizations is all about. It's about letting you create those defined paths, but then also providing the viewers, the consumers of that report, with the freedom to explore and the freedom to make that report their own, so that they can get those insights, they can make those small changes without having to call you up, without having to complicate the overall report. Viewer customizations is a simple and governed way for you to handle conflicting requests from your organization. It lets you build a report that then confers some control to the consumers so that they have some freedom in making it their own. And it's really simple to do. As you build the report, you can set the viewer customization levels to any one of 3 different levels. So at the bottom, you have simple edits. At the medium level, you have comprehensive edits. And if you really want to have your consumers have some freedom, some real freedom available to them, you also have the option to take it all the way up to data edits. So let's drill down into each of these different levels and see what they get you. So the first of these levels is simple edits, and this is what you've been used to with SAS Vision Analytics in the past. So these are what your viewers are going to be comfortable with. This is what you know and love, right? So you build the report. When you set it to simple edits, you intend to basically preserve what you intended to build as you built that original report. So none of the changes that the consumers can make will fundamentally alter or corrupt your intent with the report. So users can do things like sort, they can toggle legends, and they can toggle whether or not value labels are showing on various graphs and charts. So this is the safest option if you want to kind of continue to have a very locked down report and you want to have those defined paths, then simple edits is the way to go. But if you dial things up to comprehensive edits, you gain one really, really powerful capability. Comprehensive edits, and this is actually when you create a new report with SAS Vision Analytics, this is the default setting now. When you set things to comprehensive edits, you basically are allowing the report consumer to start to wiggle around and maybe alter some of your intentions, some of your original intentions for the report. This basically gives your users the ability to change chart types. So for example, they might want to change a bar to a pie, or they might want to change a pie to a list table, or a geomap to a list table. So comprehensive edits allows them to do that. Next, there's data edits. So this is the case where you want to give a lot of freedom to your end customers. You want your viewers to be able to modify the data with the existing data that you've baked into the report. So for example, you want your consumers to be able to change data assignments, for example. So maybe you want to let them swap out one measure on a bar chart with another measure on the bar chart. That way they don't have to call you up and ask you to do it or create a new chart for them to be able to do that. They can just do that with the report that you've given them. They might be able to alter some of the filters. They might be able to change those ranks. They might want to make adjustments to the display rules that you have added to the report. This allows those users to make these changes for themselves and not have to, call you up and ask you to make a special version of the report just for that. So it does really open things up for the viewers, and it kind of gets them out of your hair and lets you just craft a much more open-ended experience for them. So those are the 3 different levels. So let's go ahead and look at the viewer customizations feature in action. So I'm a report author, I've built my report here, and I'm ready to share it with the world. But before I do that, let's go ahead and go to our options pane on the right, and let's go ahead and make sure our report is selected here. And down below, you can see that we have a viewer customization capability level setting here. So by default, of course, as I mentioned, our capability level is set to comprehensive edits. So this basically lets our users make all the things that they get in simple edits in terms of changes and edits, but it also gives them the ability to do things like change object types. So if they don't like, for example, a pie chart, they can switch it to a bar for themselves, or they can switch it to a list table, or any number of charts that might be available to them based on the data. So again, it frees you up from having to create multiple versions of the report, and each user can customize a report for themselves on the fly. So let's take a look at how that actually works. I'm going to go ahead and switch to viewing this report. And now I'm looking at this report like a viewer. I can flip through the pages. I can see all the different visualizations I've added to my report here. And well, it looks like I've got a bar chart here. And this bar chart's nice, but maybe instead of looking at average transactions descending, I prefer to look at it ascending. So I can go ahead and right click and I can make a change to the sort. So instead of descending, we'll go to ascending. And there you go. That's already making me as an individual user much happier. So I've got all the capabilities I'm used to before. But as you can see, I've got some additional options as well. So for example, I can change the grouping style. So right now this bar is stacked. I can switch it to clustered. And again, this is all just happening for me. So it's not affecting anyone else. This is just happening for me. And if I like that, I can, leave this report. I can come back to it a week later and it just becomes preserved as part of my user state. If at any time I want to go back to the original report state that the report author had created for us, then I can restore the default report state. And that's going to take us back to exactly what I had designed this report with, down to taking us back to the first page. So it looks like exactly like it was before. But let's say I don't like this bar. Let's say I'd rather see this as a list table, right? Again, I can right click right on the chart and I can say down below, change bar chart. I can change it to a list table. And I can do all kinds of cool things to make this more useful for me without having to go back to the report author or an admin and asking them to make these changes for me, which would affect lots and lots of people. So for example, if I want to show a cell graph on my average transaction column, I can just go ahead and add it. And now I have a bar chart that's available to me, and I can see the change and the variation in the average transaction amount for my customers a lot more easily. So there you go. I just made some changes to this using the comprehensive edits. And again, I didn't affect anyone else. If I leave and I come back to this, I can pick up where I left off, and I can even save a copy of this report just for myself. So I can save a copy of it. It's going to preserve all these changes, and it's going to be saved to my folder. I can open it up and go to it. And I can continue to make changes to this as well. So I can change the sort. I can freeze all columns to the left. I can make all kinds of changes, change chart types. Maybe let's go ahead and turn this box plot into maybe a bar chart as a recommendation. I can see that information that way for me as well. So that's comprehensive edits. Let's go ahead and take a look at what you can do with data edits. So now I'm back to editing this report as an author, and you can see again my report as I created it and as it's in its default state. And I'm going to go ahead back to my viewer customizations on the right hand side in the options menu. and I'm going to dial this up from comprehensive edits to data edits. I'm going to save my report, and I'm going to go back, in this case, to a fresh view report here so we can start from scratch again. So now let's look at some of the things that data edits lets viewers do. So the first thing I might want to do is, as a viewer, I might look at this information and say, well, age group and write-off risk are interesting to look at on this box plot. But what if we could, swap out age group? Instead of age group, let's look at our customers based on their mobile use. And now the box plot will change to show me my customers' mobile use and what their write-off risk is in this case. So again, I can make some of these data changes on the fly based on the data that's available to this report. And I can then, again, without having to go back to that report author, explore a completely new path that perhaps the author didn't originally intend for me to explore, but wanted me to be able to if I wanted. And that's exactly what I did here. Again, we're going to go ahead and select our list table here. And you can see in our list table, if I go into my filters, we've got some filters set on this list table. So the report author created some filters and filtered out some of the write-off risk values. Well, maybe I want to look at all the write-off risk values. Well, with data edits, the report author has told me, yes, go for it. If you need to make those changes, go ahead and make them. And I'm going to go ahead and make them. And now you can see my table shows me the full gamut of write-off risk for my customers. So again, this is a really great way to help open up the report without compromising things like security, but still allowing your users to work within the context of this report and get additional insights, make new discoveries, and not have to be dependent on you to provide them with these customizations and these changes that they need to be making decisions and to be making a difference in their organizations. So that's viewer customizations. With viewer customizations in SAS Visual Analytics, you can take the guesswork out of building your reports and dashboards. You can't make everyone happy with one report, but you can give your users the option to customize what they see in the report so that at least they can be pleased with their own custom version of the report. And that's what viewer customizations is all about. Viewer customizations helps your teams develop a much richer body of insights. It just opens things up. It decentralizes and democratizes the process of developing insights. And it's got governance built in. You control how much control that your end viewers have. So with viewer customizations, anyone in the organization has self-service power to go beyond the report that they see, and they're now allowed to find and explore new insights to consume and share and hopefully move your organization forward. Thank you so much. If you are interested in learning more or have any questions, feel free to contact me and I will be back in touch. Thank you so much for watching.